You're now tuned into another episode of Wait a Gam Minute podcast. I am Gam, and of course, I got my sidekick, my co-host,
Miss Go Getter.
And tonight, y'all, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Okay, our special guest tonight, we've been looking for her probably about
3 years.
That's what I'm talking about, Miss Go Getter. You already on it. A total of 3 years, but you know, 3 whole years. But we found her. She's safe. So of course we're gonna take good care of her tonight. So with that being said, Miss Nadrena Pleas, how are you, ma'am?
I'm doing well, ma'am. How are you?
Good. Swing that mic all the way around for
Okay,
me.
all the way around.
Yeah, all the way around.
That good?
Yeah, a little bit more.
A little bit more.
Yeah, that's good.
Better?
That's
Okay.
good. That's great. So how was your weekend?
It was busy.
It was busy.
It was, and that's probably why you haven't seen me in 3 years. So Saturday morning, I was able to volunteer with Rise Against Hunger.
Okay.
Which is an organization that boxes meals for people in less fortunate countries.
Okay.
And so we were able to do that on Saturday morning up in Chuckatuck at Oakland Christian Church.
Okay.
And then Saturday afternoon, Hope for Suffolk, which is at Westminster Presbyterian. They had their graduation ceremony for their interns.
Okay.
And then Sunday, I was able to worship with the parishioners at Oak Grove Baptist.
Okay.
And then Sunday
busy.
afternoon, Sunday evening, Delegate Clark had his annual gala. So
Okay.
my weekends have been like that for the past 3 years. For the most part, I've been out. I've been trying to be out in the community,
Right.
Connecting with people. And, one of the biggest things of the job is educating people about what the Commonwealth Attorney's Office does and
Right.
who we are and that kind of thing. So, it's very important for me to connect with the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay, that sounds real busy.
So it's not that I've just been avoiding my
Okay.
friends here. So
Y'all, yes, she has. But I mean, it don't matter. We found her, and like I said, she's good, and we're good. So with that being said, we're gonna rock and roll. Okay, tell us a little bit. You don't have to introduce yourself because most people probably already know who you are. They know you're a Commonwealth Attorney here. Well, there in the city of Suffolk. So we have to go into that spiel. So just tell us like what's been going on the last 3 years since you've been in office.
So, so my term started in January of 2022. And in that time, we unfortunately have been extraordinarily busy with a lot of a lot of gun violence issues. That has probably been our biggest challenge in the office is dealing with the after effects. And that's the families, the victims, the defendants, trying to bring justice and some sort of normalcy back to the city. These started to tick up prior to my election. It's been a few years in the making.
Okay.
But it seems to have peaked at that time. It appears, even in light of what happened in the past few weeks, that we are still on the downward trend. So that's positive. But that's been our biggest issue. And so that's been the biggest challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. It in Suffolk, it really has, which is kind of surprising. For us, I don't know, like far as you being in office, but us being as citizens, it's like we don't hear of all the small things. We only hear of the large,
Right.
the large things. So, so how are you guys getting over that challenge though? Like, what are some of the things that you're doing?
So one of the things we did 2 years ago was to apply for a grant through the AG's office, the Attorney General's office, and that's for a ceasefire prosecutor. Part of that initiative was to look at what was happening and address the issues of gun, gangs, drugs, that kind of thing head on. So we have a specialized prosecutor who handles those kinds of cases, but also there's an outreach component and a prevention component. And so that is what we were trying to do. And I think we're seeing some effectiveness of having that program. So that was for a 2-year grant. We're actually towards the end of that 2 years. We're hoping to extend that grant so that our prosecutor can continue to work.
Oh yeah, we actually met. What's his name?
Tom Bondurant, Jack
Right.
Bondurant, yes.
Right. We actually met him at a I think we were at Western Tidewater.
Yeah, it was some kind of meeting.
some meeting, and he was there. Yeah, yeah, pretty cool guy.
So I know
ahead.
you're telling us about the grant and everything, but I know you mentioned earlier when we was talking that everyone don't know or understand exactly what the Commonwealth do. Can you explain that? It's like this rewind, go back a little bit, just explain to people exactly.
Sure.
Because I know you mentioned some people will call about wills and stuff.
Right.
Commonwealth don't do wills.
So sometimes people still don't know what a Commonwealth Attorney's Office does, right? And I think one of the biggest issues is the title. So in other states, everybody knows Law and Order, right? Everybody's seen Law and Order, and they hear District Attorney. If I were to say District Attorney, that grabs people, and they know immediately what I'm talking about. You say Commonwealth Attorney.
Well, let me stop right there. People's not going to say District Attorney either. They're going to say DA.
Correct, right?
Because I say the DA office.
And so those are the terms that people are familiar with. And so you start off by telling them, well, here in Virginia, we are not DAs, we are not district attorneys, we are Commonwealth attorneys. This is the Commonwealth of Virginia. And then you start by telling them what you do. And it's true, we do have people who call to say they need help with visitation, they need help with custody, they need help with their wills, or they're trying to do something or rather with the family. And you feel bad because some people genuinely need that assistance. And we are lawyers. It's not like we can't do it, but that is not our job. We are, the position of Commonwealth Attorney was created, it's a constitutional position. So it's created by the Constitution of Virginia. And I have appointees, those are my assistant Commonwealth Attorneys or deputy Commonwealth Attorneys who work for me. We are, by the state, funded to handle and prosecute felony cases. A felony is a crime that carries more than a year in prison. And so it's the more serious cases. Fortunately, in the city of Suffolk, we are supplemented by the city, and so we handle certain misdemeanor cases. Those are cases that carry anything 12 months or less in jail. Anything a year or more is in prison. And so, for example, we handle every single DUI that comes through the city. We handle school offenses that are usually misdemeanors. And we handle those because the effects of them are so great. Even though I'm not going to say just misdemeanors, but the effect and impact on us not catching a person who drives drunk can be catastrophic down the line. And so, so some of these cases we handle them because they have the potential effect to bring more negativity, to turn into something that is more serious down the line. And so we want to handle those cases up front. So that's our primary job when you're looking at it by statute, by code, by law, what we're supposed to do. But we try to do more. You know, one of my biggest things in my office is outreach. I want to get to people. I want to prevent people from being victims. I want to prevent kids from sliding down the wrong path. You know, anything that we can do to keep you from, I tell people, I don't want to see you at my work.
Oh,
you know,
you won't see
I don't want to see you at my work because that usually means something bad has happened to you. And I would prefer to avoid that. And same for defendants, right? I prefer not to see you in a jumpsuit. But you're going to do what you're going to do, and we're going to do what we're going to do.
That's right.
So yeah, that's what a Commonwealth attorney does, essentially.
If I remember correctly, I remember one of your things were when you were running something about mental health court.
Yes.
So did you ever establish that?
Behavioral health docket was launched in May. I can't remember. I'm not sure if it's this year or last year because there have been so many things going on. But we have launched the behavioral health docket. I think we currently have 4 or 5 participants on the behavioral health docket. It's a process we're all learning. We actually have a meeting next week to review our processes to see if we're being the most effective, if we're making the most out of this opportunity. But so far, I think it's working well for the participants that we have on it. We've had some that have come on and they did not make it. For various reasons.
So what do they have to do to make it?
So you have to, so the whole purpose of the behavioral health docket is to get those individuals who have a history of mental illness, serious mental illness. And that is the driving force behind their criminality, right? So for a lot of people with mental health issues, they have not had any type of stabilizing effect in their lives, right? It's always been a cycle of, commit a crime, go to jail, get out, maybe go to a hospital, commit some other offense, and it's a cycle. And so to disrupt that, to get these people established with services that, one, stabilize them, right? That's number one. Make sure that they have housing, see if we can help them find employment, all of those things that everyone else does every day, but they have never done for whatever reason.
Okay.
And so for the behavioral health docket, you have to consent to it, right? We can't make people want to do this. You have to want to do it, similar to our drug court. And so they are screened. There's a screening that's done by Western Tidewater Community Services Board, because we have to know what their mental health issues are.
Right.
Correct. And so once that's determined, we then decide, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office in particular, if this is someone we believe should be on the docket. I'll tell you, I think I've only rejected one person from the docket, and that was because they had a really serious history of mental health, and it didn't appear that our program would help them. And so there was really no point in doing that. But everyone else, we've tried to give an opportunity to, especially as we're starting up this program. We don't have a lot to lose, so we really want to try to help the people that we can. So to get on the docket, really, there has to be a showing that serious mental illness is sort of the cause of many of your problems. And so if they come on board and they're willing to do what's necessary, which is again, stabilizing, taking your medicine, going to see your psychologist or your psychiatrist. The goal is not just the mental health part, it's the other part, right? To make sure that you are going to work every day, that you are staying away from the influences that bring you down. And so, and you know, for a lot of people with mental illness, substance abuse, sometimes they commingle. Not always, but sometimes they do. Family dynamics are always an issue. You know, a lot of people with mental illness have burned many, many bridges. And so they don't have family to rely upon anymore, because they've made
they pretty much like, look, you keep doing this, I'm done. Like,
correct. And they've done it so many times, so they don't have that access that they used to. And so this program is designed to, maybe if you can't reconnect with a family, reconnect somewhere else to give them that stability. So the goal is just long-term stability so that they will not come back into the system. And so statistically speaking, what we know is that people who go onto these dockets, even if they are not successful, there is still a lower rate of recidivism.
So that still works out.
Correct.
And then you guys keep up with them throughout the whole process, and you keep up with the data and stuff like that.
So the program is about 12 to 18 months, depending. And we haven't been, so it has to be it has to be that we started in this year. We haven't had anyone run that long yet. So I can't say how successful or not the program is, because we haven't been running that long.
So let me ask you this now. When they're in this program, does this program keep them from going to jail?
I was just
because I'd like put me some here.
So we've had that, right? We've had individuals who, and we know this, we know it, right? When your options are staying in jail or going home, we realize that there are people who are coming out just to come out, right? I will sign up for anything if I can go home and take a bath in my bathroom, eat my own food. We get that. But one, again, it's up to us regarding the case. So one of the things we have to look at is, because our behavioral health docket is in General District Court, which is where we have our less serious cases, we look at the types of charges that they have, and what type of history that they have. Because again, we want to help people, but we also have a duty and an obligation to protect the rest of Suffolk and the rest of society as a whole. And so we're not going to allow individuals onto the docket just because they think they want it. And also with this screening, there has to be serious mental illness as a primary diagnosis. So you can't just raise your hand and say, I'm ready to get on the behavioral, and you don't have a history of mental illness. So so there is a screening process. And we have had a couple people who have taken the road of, you know, it became clear within the first few sessions that they just wanted it to get out of jail. But what happens is their case is actually put back onto the regular docket, and they're removed. And we've had one individual who, he was only released to go on the docket. He was not compliant, get back and go back to jail.
Wow.
So
that's a lot. That's a lot.
It is. But I have a question, and I know and this question is basically, like I have heard other people say it, but I have even said it myself. And I still believe it. I mean, I don't know. It might not be true because I never been on that side. But
and I don't want to see you at my work. I'm like, go ahead.
And I don't want to be at your work unless I'm just there chit-chatting. But is it true that there's like, I know you can't really say, but let me see how I can say it. in a roundabout way, there's favors. Or let's say, like maybe you got to do a favor. So maybe a defendant got caught up in a favor.
What do you mean?
Oh, well, meaning like it's always been a thing of, oh, yeah, well, if you owe this lawyer something, let's say that the lawyer and the Commonwealth or a judge have a conversation.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And then let's say, okay, well, maybe the Commonwealth attorney at that moment owe this lawyer a favor. So it's like, okay, let's work something out.
Oh, yeah.
Like workouts.
Yeah. No.
Not
You know?
workouts.
Yeah, like you working
Like,
things out.
yeah.
Like
It's a
tit for
favor.
tat.
Yeah, it's a favor. Like, okay, you won that one, but you know, I did this. I gave you a good, not a deal because what is it called?
Like a plea agreement.
Plea agreement.
Okay.
So I gave you a good plea agreement for your last client, but I need this win, so you help me. You know, I don't know. It's like, to me, because sometimes when you're looking at it, it don't always make sense of the charge and the sentencing of this one versus that one.
Okay.
So it's like, oh, maybe a favor was owed to that judge, or maybe the judge owed the jail a favor.
Okay.
Not the jail.
Yeah,
Just-
you know they
she
get
said
paid.
it's just anybody. It's
Just
just
anybody, everybody owe a favor. So it's like, okay, we all got to get paid from this. Yeah.
So the first thing you should know is that lawyers are type A's, right? We all like to win. Like, I mean, we are highly competitive, wanting to win people. And I would not do that. And everyone else is like me, right? On both sides. So one, just to say, just to quell that, no, there are no favors. We are not, that's not how it works. And the same for judges. There's actually, say, for example, you were doing a plea agreement. There's actually a question or a statement that the judge has not participated in any way in the plea agreement. And that's a rule that we actually have to follow. And the same for when we're negotiating pleas, we're doing it because we think it's what's fair and right, or perhaps it has something to do with the evidence. So it's never because, you know, this defense attorney is my friend and I want to pay them back or something like that, because our job that's not our job. Number one, our job is to be public servants and to provide public safety. And also it's just not ethical, right? You know, we should not be dealing with people's lives as a commodity. And we don't. And so there is, now I cannot speak for every single attorney in every single position all over the country and all over the world.
What's up, family? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wait Again Minute Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button as well, so when we drop a new episode, you'll be first to know. Stay tuned to all things Wait Again Minute.
But I can say by far and large, my experiences all across the board and all the jurisdictions I've served in, is that we are here to do what is fair and right and just, period. And we don't owe anything to anyone except to do the right thing. And so we don't make plea agreements or any other deals or anything like that based on who we know or personal preference, anything like that.
Yeah, and you know, because even like we was talking to some fellas that was on that came on, and we was talking to them, and even like we talked to a whole lot of people that's either been in or came out or whatever.
That's strange though. We need to. Excuse me for cutting across, but we need to figure that out. Why?
Well, okay, so here, so
we
so
do.
it's not.
I don't know. It's starting to get a little scary.
No, but so you're not the first person to say it, and we hear it all the time. I'll say, you know, sometimes we hear it in jail calls, right? Like people, I don't know why. I cannot tell you why people believe that public defenders are somehow connected or in bed with the Commonwealth Attorney's office. Like nothing could be further from the truth. And so I'm always astounded. I am always astounded by that comment. And I'm astounded by that comment because, and I'm speaking for Suffolk, right? So the public defenders in Suffolk work hard and they work hard for their clients. And so I'm always astounded by the fact that someone may say, they must owe something to the Commonwealth, right? Or the statement that I'm gonna get me a paid lawyer. Like some of our public defenders, we've had a judge even say, and I agree with him, if I got this public defender, I would, if I got a charge, I would sell everything I own and become indigent so that I could qualify for court appointed, so I could get this particular attorney.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so there's this perception, and it's funny you mentioned that report just came out by the Virginia Criminal Sentencing Commission, rating the outcomes of people who had court appointed counsel versus those who had retained attorneys, and there is no statistical difference between the outcomes. So people who say like I'm gonna get a paid lawyer, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I don't want court appointed. You're not getting anything
I think
better.
it really depends on the passion that attorney has.
Correct.
And if they are proud of what they're doing, they're going to put in everything that they have.
Right.
So I think it really depends on that, because that's true what you just said. I have seen or know some people that said they had a court appointed and they had a better result than someone that they didn't paid all these thousands to.
Correct. And our public defenders, and it like I said, it's funny when I listen to it, because when we come to court, right, it's like anything. It's like family, right? You don't air your dirty laundry in court. Right. You do that behind closed doors. Yeah. But people don't know behind closed doors how much we fight with the public defender's office and how much they fight with us. Like, because again, we're attorneys. We're those type A personalities. They have their point. We have our point. And we respect both sides. But at the end of the day, we each think we're right. Right.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that people have that perception and that feeling that this is how it works, when it's so not true as to how it works.
And then I guess too, I guess sometimes, listening and talking to different people from both sides, I guess I can kind of understand a little bit on why they feel that way. Because when you look at it, people, like you said, like the Commonwealth and court appointed and even paid attorneys, it's a type A personality. You in competition, you want to win. I want to win. But when you have, it's the same like when you have defendants. They compare their case to another case, and they be like, well, why, this person got such and such.
Right.
But I did, and I got similar charge or less charge, and I got more time than they did.
Right.
So, and it kind of makes you, hold on, y'all, my mic on there. And it kind of makes you go, why is that? And then it's one of those things, oh, well, maybe a favor was owed and you got the short end of the stick.
So I think it's two parts, right? One part is that people are sometimes comparing apples to oranges, right? So you may come to court and you hear, I have a drug charge. Like I'm charged with possession schedule 1-2. Someone else comes in and says, I have a possession schedule 1-2. And what happened to me did not happen to this person. Well, what are the facts and circumstances of those cases, right? What is your background as compared to this background, to this other person's background? Have you been convicted 5 times of this and this is their first time up? You're going to see disparate outcomes because everything is not the same. That's one part of it. I think the other part, too, is that people expect us, meaning the attorneys, to have the same, maybe sometimes anger or emotions that are attached to a case, and they don't like to see. So, for example, I'll have a public defender or a court-appointed attorney or defense attorney come over and talk to me, and we'll be very collegial. We'll carry on good conversations. We might sit next to each other in court. People see that as being in bed with one another, right?
Yeah.
We don't have anything against one another, right? This is my colleague. This is my professional colleague.
Right.
We're going to get up there. We're going to duke it out. We're going to argue our positions, and we're going to sit back down because at the end of the day,
it's a job.
It's a job.
Yeah.
And so I think people want, you have even for victims, like you have a victim who's very angry about this, and you have a defendant who's saying this, and the two attorneys come together, and we're fine, and we can talk, but that's our job. Yeah. And so people don't see that. They want us to bring the same emotion that they have to the case, and when they don't see it, they think there's something wrong. Because we get the same complaints
they in cahoots
on our side, right? Yeah. Like, oh, you're just doing this because, you think you're only making this plea agreement because you're scared you'll lose. Well, sometimes we might lose. From a practical perspective, if we don't take this plea agreement and we don't do it like this, the odds are not in our favor. Right. So they don't want to hear that.
A plea agreement, is that considered a lose or a win?
Depends, right? It depends. So, and it depends on what's in the plea agreement. So a plea agreement is an agreement between the parties for a particular disposition or a particular outcome. What I might call a win, someone else might call a lose, and vice versa. What it does do, and I'll give you a prime example. We may plead a case that involves a child sex victim, and we may plead it honestly into something we don't really want to, But if it spares our child from having to testify and relive that trauma and still give them the satisfaction of a felony conviction, and perhaps the person goes away for less time than they would have otherwise if we'd gone to trial, but I've saved my victim's livelihood and sanity,
Right.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to do it.
Yeah.
It might not be what I want personally. Like, I would want to put the person under the jail for like 5 million years.
Yeah.
But my victim needs justice, right? My
Right.
victim needs to know that someone is being prosecuted, that someone is being held accountable for hurting them. And that may look like they don't get convicted of rape, but perhaps aggravated sexual battery, right? And maybe instead of them serving a life sentence, maybe they serve 5 years.
Yeah.
But that person's been held accountable. They're a convicted sex offender, like all of these other goods that come from that help the victim. And sometimes that is justice.
Yeah.
Because what is not justice is to put, say, for example, my child victim on the stand. They have a complete nervous breakdown. This person is found not guilty, and everything goes away. So those are some of the things we have to weigh
You have to like flip
all
a
the
coin,
time.
like, okay, which one is best?
Correct. And the thing that people don't give us credit for is knowing how this works, right? We know the trends of our juries. We know what people are looking for. We know, how people interpret things. And we have to be realistic about that. Sometimes we'll put a case on knowing good and full well we are likely to lose.
Wow.
But that's
what
sometimes
it is.
that's what justice looks like too, right? We have certain cases that we put in front of juries that our juries do not like. But you know what? That's what it is. I would like for the jury to make a determination about what is good for this community as opposed to me saying it.
Right.
And if the jury comes back and says not guilty, the jury says not guilty.
Right. So now, do you actually prosecute cases yourself?
So before being elected, I had a regular docket like everybody else,
Okay.
right? So I went to court all the time. Being the elected, I don't go to court as often, but I do have dockets. So for example, one of the things we changed in our office is we've just changed the system of our misdemeanor appeals process. We've actually changed it within the court system altogether, but that also affects my office.
Okay.
And I've actually put myself in the rotation, just like all my other attorneys. So I actually have scheduled docket days just like they do.
Okay.
And so, but we've also had some people retire and leave the office, and so some of those cases have to be reassigned. And so I've taken a few of those cases as well to take some of the burden off of my staff. So I do have a few cases coming up, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been difficult, right? I've not tried a case.
It's 22?
No. I've had a couple in between. But when you're in court and you have a regular docket, like you're in court every week. Sometimes
Right.
you're in court 5 days a week. And it's like riding a bike, right?
Right.
If you haven't ridden for a while, you got to get back on and start pedaling, and you're like, it comes back to you. So I just make sure I'm prepared, like I always do. I am, again, that type A, anal personality. Everything's written out, typed out, tabbed, highlighted, all that. So I'm prepared for my trial.
Right.
But still, just going in after you haven't done it for a while makes you a little nervous.
So when you have a case, right? Take us on the day of Nadrena Pleas having a case. Okay, you get up, you get dressed, now you get to the court building.
So is this for my actual trial?
No,
Because-
just your regular day. Yeah, for your trials.
Okay.
Your regular
Trial,
day
yeah.
for when
So-
you have a trial. Do you have butterflies? Like,
So if it's, honestly, for most of us, if it's not a jury trial, you don't have butterflies. If it's a bench trial, it's fine. Like,
Okay.
it's like brushing your teeth. You're ready for that. A jury trial brings its own special fresh hell. I'm not gonna lie, because you don't know, right? It's so much that's not in your control
Right.
that it makes you so very nervous. And and again, it's the Commonwealth's burden to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt. Defense doesn't have to do anything. They don't have to do anything. So all of it rests on us. That's a tremendous amount of pressure. And depending on what the case is, even more so, a murder, a rape, a child sexual assault, a robbery, those things, if you lose, they could have a tremendous negative impact on your community. So it is very stressful. So for most jury trials, most of us don't sleep the day before because you're trying to remember everything, and you're trying to make sure you didn't forget anything. Certain things have to be filed by a certain time. Certain things have to be disclosed to the defense attorney. You have to make sure all your witnesses are there and served. And it's just so much logistically. And so I would say for a jury trial, it is stressful. For a bench trial, not so much.
not so much.
Relatively speaking, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, when you have a trial, you come in, the best way to help ensure success for your cases is talking to your victims and witnesses.
Right.
To prepare them for what's to come. And that's going to depend on who your victim is, right? Your child victim, you're going to treat differently from your professional witness victim, which is, say, like a loss prevention specialist, right? They're in court all the time. Them coming to court is not a big deal. But most people have not been to court as victims. And so you have to prepare them for that process. You know, the defense attorney is not going to be nice to you like I am. They're going to be mean, and you have to be prepared for that. And so you let them know that. And you just want to make it realistic and set the expectations so that they are not surprised when they get on the stand.
So it's basically the same thing. Like, so the Commonwealth, you guys let your witness know defense attorney's not going to be nice. Then the defense attorney let their witnesses know Commonwealth not going to be nice. They're going to get up there and they're going to try to turn it. They're going to eat you up.
Well, according to the jail calls, they say other words about us, but that's okay. It's all right.
Also, the Commonwealth attorney, the ones that sometimes possibly listen to the jail calls.
Everybody listens to. They say on the recordings.
So who? Oh, I always thought it was the jail that would listen.
It is. Well, we don't listen to them all the time, but you know,
just when you need to.
In cases, you need to.
Correct.
They go and pull them.
Now,
go ahead.
So when you listen to a call, because if the Commonwealth attorney is listening to a call, there's a reason. So have it been a time when y'all actually had to like use that call against like it would be the defendant because they were in there.
Yes.
So y'all will pull it up and use it. Say, hey, you was on the phone such and such date and time.
Yes. It's usually a security issue. Where someone has threatened somebody or said something. Sometimes there are admissions in that. You know, they told the police, I didn't do it. Then they're on the phone with
Joe Schmo.
Someone, and they're like, well, you know, I didn't mean to do it. Well, you know, that's not what you told the police. But it does happen. It happens. But, I mean, the beginning of the recording say they are the phone calls say they're recorded.
I don't think people really believe that they're really recorded because
until they sit them down and play it for them. Then, you know, it's one of those
that
things.
doesn't matter either. We have people who are on video committing crimes and they plead not guilty and we take a jury trial. That matters not.
There's no way.
Yes, ma'am.
They need to be on behavior.
Yes, ma'am. So we have cases all the time where it is evident, it is clear that the person committed the crime that they're accused of. And they
don't want to do it.
But here's the thing. I respect that because you have a right to plead not guilty. You have a right to a trial. You have a right to a zealous defense. I respect that. I don't always like it, but I do respect that is their right. That's their right.
Yeah, that's their right. But come on, common sense. It's like, there's no way I'm getting out of it. And now, if you got me red-handed, and this is just me, you got me red-handed, I'm like, okay, all right. Well, can we work something out? You know what I'm saying?
Let's negotiate. Let's talk.
Yeah. That is my.
She did say that
is my go-to.
It's the Commonwealth job to prove.
It is. It's
their
job,
burden.
right.
So hey, you got to prove that's me.
That's
that
a
could
waste
be
of taxpayer money too.
Like, oh, I saw you, Miss Go Get. Prove it won't gam. How you know it won't gam? Proof.
It'll be 99,000 people saying, you know it won't hurt because if she ain't fall over, it won't hurt.
And it's interesting. We one of my, I think it was my very first jury trial. It was a case when I was in Greensville County. It was very sad. It was a young girl who at the time alleged that she had been forcibly raped by her, I think it was step-grandfather, and she became pregnant. He denied. Not only did he not have, he denied any sexual contact whatsoever. And because she was pregnant, the fetus was aborted and we were able to test it for DNA. And it came back his DNA.
Wow.
We tried that case, right? You said you never had any contact with this child whatsoever. So there's no way that she would have ended up pregnant with your fetus. And
she was married, and that was Joseph's baby.
Apparently, right? And so, but that's a prime example of, and he knew this before a trial, right? We have to disclose those things. We have to turn those things over. So you knew that the Department of Forensic Science tested the DNA, and you were 99.9. It's like Maury, right? It's 99.99. Whatever the statistical analysis was, and we still tried that case.
Wow.
And he was found guilty.
That's crazy.
And it was funny. So it's not often that we get to speak to jurors or know what jurors are thinking after a case. But one of the jurors did mention to someone, they were like, I don't understand why the Commonwealth kept harping on the fact that the DNA matched. And I'm like, what do you mean?
That's key.
That's how we prove. Mm-hmm. So I guess in their mind, they believed her anyway.
Okay.
So they didn't understand why we were harping on the DNA. But we don't know that during the trial, right? I don't know what you think until you say guilty or not guilty.
That's it.
And so that's another part of the stress of dealing with a jury trial. You don't know what people are thinking, and you think you're proving a point, right? If I harp on the 99.99, that means it can only be him. It can't be someone else.
Right.
They're not worried about that. They believe the little girl.
Wow. Yeah.
Who knew? Yeah. Right? And so it's very interesting. Jury trials are very interesting.
Yeah.
So have there ever been a time where you had a case, you won the case, but you won the case, but you had to try the case anyway. But let's say, like, use that case for example. But you find out, suppose the DNA would have came back, or say he had a twin, right? And it would be like he wasn't guilty. Have you ever had a trial where the person you won and they found the person guilty, but later on you realized that you forgot something or overlooked something and the person really wasn't guilty? Can you go back and
I've
do
not
anything?
had that happen.
Okay.
If that is the case and you have an issue where you know conclusively that something has happened, there are ways to go back and remedy that. But I've never had that happen. I don't know anyone else who has either. It's rare. I mean, you see stories of people being exonerated and vindicated after being convicted,
right.
and I've told someone I never want to be responsible for putting someone innocent in jail or prison. Like that's something that would hurt my heart, right? And so what I try to explain to people is that when those cases happen, like the officer in Norfolk who was convicted of all kinds of stuff, and a lot of his cases were tossed out because of his bad behavior. I never want to be in that position, and so I'm always looking at my cases, and if I think that there is something questionable or if I'm not comfortable with it, then I will not pursue it. Because the worst thing you can do at the end of the day is put someone in prison or jail that should not be there. But there are remedies for it. But I don't know personally that it hasn't happened to me personally, and I don't know anyone else that's happened to.
Because, like you just mentioned, because they have had a lot of cases kind of like overturned.
It's not a lot. So, and that's part of the problem. When you see it on TV, because here's the thing, those people have served like decades in prison, right? Wrongfully convicted individuals. That's horrible. And so when you hear it, it hurts your soul.
Right.
But to say it happens frequently, statistically, that is really not true. If you think of all the cases, for example, as far as I know, my whole career, right, almost 20 years of prosecution, I've not had that happen. And so statistically speaking, I've had a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And they are, as far as I know, fine. Right. And so, but it's again that one that and again, it's always some tragic story about somebody who was like 16 or 17 when they went to prison, and they're getting out when they're like 40 or 50, and all of this other stuff happened, and there's no excusing any of that. But it's not, statistically speaking, frequent. And that's the problem. People think it happens all the time, and it doesn't.
Right.
But again, one time is too many.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it is.
Definitely.
And because if you have a person that's 15 that went to jail and they come out and they 40 something, it's like
their
they
whole
can't
life.
get that back.
Correct.
It's like they can't get that back, and then they come out and they was found like, oh yeah, this was missed, that was missed, that was skipped, they didn't do this or they didn't say that.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, we sorry, come on home.
Right. And I would say in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that the reason I think it is rare is because there are so many checks and balances within the system. And I know some people are probably like, yeah, whatever, she lying. but it's true. So like when you think of someone getting arrested, so say a crime happened and someone gets arrested for their crime, the very first layer of this whole system is probable cause, right? That person is arrested, they have to be taken before a magistrate. And the magistrate says, more likely than not, this offense occurred and you're the person who committed it. So there's one layer of probable cause. Then if it's a felony, it goes to general district court or juvenile domestic relations court for another probable cause hearing. And that's more evidence put in front of the judge to certify it to circuit court. So then you have to still go to that lower court and prove probable cause. Then you go to the grand jury, and then you have to prove probable cause again. And then the case is set for trial. So there's so many layers in between there, and you've had lawyers in between there at some point. So,
I think when it comes to that, and I agree with you, but I think the thing that's missing when it comes to that, all those people that's looking at it have to be people that are serious about their job, people that has compassion about their job, and they want to seriously do what's right no matter what, whether the person is guilty or not.
Right.
They want to do what's actually right, because in between that, if you have someone that's don't really want to do the work, don't really care, they just pass it through, or maybe they have a favor, then I mean,
not in Suffolk.
But I'm just saying generally, not speaking in Suffolk, but just anywhere, it could possibly happen. And then if the person is young, if they are like 15, 14, 16, and then they from a low income family where they can't afford anything but what's being offered to them, or they don't have the smart sort of wits to know or to ask certain questions, they could possibly get caught up in a situation.
That's true.
Yeah.
You can't deny that every profession, right? Teachers, doctors, lawyers, somebody at McDonald's, right?
Give you them cold French fries, knowing it was cold,
or uncooked meat or something. So I'm not saying we're special. I think lawyers are held to a higher burden, right? So I don't know if you're aware. We can actually be disciplined for things that happen that are completely unrelated to our job. Completely unrelated, right?
What do you mean?
So if you have some type of misconduct or someone thinks it's kind of misconduct, but it's actually not related to anything that you did legally, it could be outside in some other sphere of your life. It could be, you had an argument at the baseball park and something else happened. You can be disciplined for other things that are outside the realm of legal work.
Okay.
And so we are held to a higher standard, and we're held to that higher standard all of the time. And so we are in a little bit of a different boat. And I think, for me and the people who work for me, we take that seriously. For the public defenders in Suffolk, they take that seriously as well. And so we, and again, speaking for my office and my people, don't want to be those people. I don't ever want to be that person who has a case that comes back and says this and this happened. And for that reason, I want my people to scrutinize what we get, right? To look at it and say, does this make sense? Do I want to take this case forward? Is this in the best interest of justice? Is this what we should be doing? So just because we get a case doesn't mean we are obligated to have to do X, Y, and Z with it if it's not the right thing to do.
Gotcha. So let me ask you this. Now, you've been in office for 3 years. So how has the community received you that you know of? Like,
I think so far so good.
Okay.
I think running on a party in Suffolk was difficult, right? Because I think everyone before me ran as an independent. The other constitutional officers all run as independents. But I felt like it was important for people to know politically where I stand. It doesn't mean I still represent everybody in the city. And my thing is, my position is about being fair and doing just and doing what's right. And I've always done that, right? So I was a prosecutor well before I ran for office. And because this is what my passion is, and this is what I like to do, and this is how I feel I am giving back to my community. So it's important for me to want to get out and talk to people. I don't care what party you're affiliated with. I don't care the color of your skin. I don't care your gender. I don't care your sexual orientation. I don't care. What you have a right to do is to be free and live your life safely in our city.
Right.
Period. And so I am going to protect you, and my people are going to protect you as best we can. Sometimes that means protecting defendants, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But that's my job. And so so I want to get out and talk to people. I want to know what's going on. Suffolk is such a big city.
Yeah, it is.
You know that what affects the people in Whaleyville is not what affects the people in Holland, is not what affects the people in North Suffolk or downtown. And so you have all of these different realms of this city, and they all have different needs and issues. And so I really have tried to make a concerted effort to get out all around the city and start talking to people. I mean, we're growing exponentially. And so it is very difficult. It was difficult then, and we continue to grow. It's even more difficult, but that's my job. My job is to let people know who we are, what we do, and how we can help.
Right.
So I think we've been well received.
That's good. That's good. Now, I'm not saying that you haven't been well received. I just wanted to know, like, where you, being that it's you, how you felt like when you're in the community, because, like, going from, like you said, you were prosecutor to now you are elected official, like, and so when you're around, do people be like, oh, that's the Commonwealth Attorney, don't say nothing, don't like move, don't say that.
It is interesting. People do sometimes change, or and I don't know, people are like, you're too humble. I'm like, I'm not humble, I'm just and it doesn't, and it has never mattered to me that I'm the Commonwealth's attorney, right? Like, I wanted to come in and I wanted to affect change, and I wanted to be the prosecutor to lead this office forward. And that was what was important to me. We had, the previous Commonwealth's attorney in for 40 plus years. Yeah. That's as old as I am. And so in my opinion, I just felt like it was time for change. And again, I'm not trying to do anything drastic or crazy. We're still prosecuting cases. We're still upholding public safety. But I think there are other things that we could be doing to help the community out more.
Right. Yeah.
And so, to that extent, so people do say that. People are like, oh, it's the Commonwealth's attorney, and it is what it is, right?
Yeah, it is.
They start treating you a little different. Oh, she didn't came in the building. Shh.
Right,
it's a thing.
Yeah.
So being that you have been in, like I said, been in office for 3 years now, and do you have people that were in office under the old leadership? Like, how has they, like, have they told you, the difference, like, from the transition? Like, do they like it? Do they not? Like, how are they feeling?
So we've had some changeover, and I knew coming in that I wanted to make changes. But if you know anything about leadership and organizational psychology, the first thing you do is not to come in and make a whole bunch of changes, right? It's just, and especially a lot of my staff had been there for a really long time as well. So you don't want to come in, because of course I have this vision, right? I know what I want to do, and I want to do blah, 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 blah. If I would have done that on day 2, everybody would have been gone.
Yeah,
and I know that, right? Yeah. Change has to come, and it has to come gradually, and it has to come, and we're also sort of fixing and correcting things from the past and moving things forward. And so those things had to be shored up first before you can start implementing other things. And so, it takes time. I can't even say still I'm where I want to be. There are still other things I want to do. And some of the things, one of my top 3 campaign issues were environmental justice, mental health docket, and pretrial services. Mental health docket is up and running. We're currently working on an environmental justice initiative. Hopefully that will be launched sometime very soon. And then we're still working on pretrial. But in that time, I've also seen other things where I think we could have a more positive impact that I want to implement and launch. So it's just this continuing evolution that I want my office to have, because, it is, people don't understand it from this perspective. And they can't, right? They can't, because you have to be me and people who are like you to understand it. When you look at who comes through the criminal justice system, by far and large, they are African American. Period. Yeah. Period. Point blank. Right. Yeah. It's not to say that they didn't commit the crime. Right. Right. But why? What happened? And if we can get to a point where we can prevent that stuff from happening, I'm all about that, because when I go into the courtroom, I see a lot of people that look like a lot of people I know. It doesn't stop me from doing my job. It will never stop me from doing my job.
Right. No, that's right.
But, there are bigger issues at play here. And what can we do about those bigger issues? If one of them is poverty or access to education or health care or anything like that, then is there anything that we can do? I'm a lawyer. This is not my job, but sometimes it doesn't take a lot to try to put those things together. Prevention. How can I teach someone to, not be scammed and, not give away your money to the Nigerian prince who contacted you over email? Those kinds of things that are small. Like, I can do that. And so if I can do that, then I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Are you a tough boss? What they call, if I ask one of your deputy Commonwealth attorneys, would they say, oh yeah, she's tough or she's strict?
I don't think so, because I'm not, right? So I hired you and I kept you because you know how to do the job, right? And so, we have some oversight and we have rules and regulations in place. And so you need to do your job. But I don't think I'm a hard boss. I don't think so.
You don't play no games.
She don't play.
Because at the end of the day, it's business, and
It's business,
they represent your office.
Correct.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, and I caught that what you said, that you kept them, so they were at the pleasure of the sheriff when you came in.
Or the previous Commonwealth Attorney.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
So actually, technically, every single election is its own new administration.
Okay.
So if I run again next year and I win again next year and I'm sworn in the following year, it is a new administration. I'm re-sworn in. I am sworn in, and all of the people who work for me are sworn in. It's a whole new administration.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Technically speaking, from a logistical standpoint, everyone just keeps going. Like, there's no difference between December 31st and January 1st. You just keep working. But you do have to be resworn. You have to be sworn in again because it's a new administration. So,
But if you decide you don't want whoever was working on December 31st,
I could get rid of
you can stop them on December 31st after New Year.
To be fair, as a constitutional officer, I can do that any day of the week.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not, It's not necessarily.
I understand, y'all. I understand Deputy Commonwealth Attorney.
But again, my people do such a great job.
Yeah, that you don't have to
I don't have to pull that trigger.
Yeah, she done pulled the boss card. Oh, wait a minute, hold up. Now, technically, I can counsel him right now. I don't have to wait till the 31st.
Right.
But the thing is, you should not have to have anyone if you're still in office and you're carrying over. You should not have to have anyone that you're waiting for that transition to occur between December 31st and January 1st to make that decision. You should have been doing your job all along to make sure that they are reaching the milestones and the goals that you have set and the mission for your office. So that's more of a leadership failure, in my opinion.
But if they was with their previous administrator,
and that's different,
team,
right? But you also want to see if. I mean, depending on who you are, like
if they want to work with you, or if y'all can work together.
Right.
Okay. Correct. Yeah. So I have one last question.
Yeah, absolutely.
I need you to think about this one.
Oh, Lord.
What's your biggest fear?
What, for work?
For anything. What's your biggest fear?
I guess failing, right?
How did I know you was going to say that, though?
Like, you want to bring always the best, right? And so not succeeding can be one of those things. And so and that could look like a whole bunch of different things, right? That can be a whole bunch of different things in different aspects of life. But I think that's one of the biggest things. And I want, and not to say I want to be like a raging success, right? I feel like I'm all right. But I don't want to let anybody down. Like, especially in this position, I've been elected here. The people have entrusted me to do a job. I want to do that job. I want to do it well. And I don't want to be seen as not doing what I should be doing. And that's both for what people think and for what I think of myself. Yeah. So I don't know if that's, I guess that's one of the biggest ones. Yeah.
It's failing. I get it. I get it. And you have a tough job. You know what I'm saying? And being that you are alpha female and, type A, personality and stuff like that, I think with that, we put more pressure on ourselves too.
Absolutely.
So it ain't really the people, it's really us.
I
you know
agree
what I'm saying?
with that.
We really, so my question to you, I have just like couple quick questions. My first question to you is, if someone came to you and they told you, hey, I want to be a Commonwealth Attorney, like, what would you say to encourage them to lead them down the right path?
I wouldn't encourage them. I really go to medical school, study sciences.
It's much better.
I mean, sometimes I go back and I replay. I was like, how could this have turned out any differently? No, I actually like where I am. I think my personal philosophy has always been, we are where we're supposed to be, right? When I was considering what I would be when I grow up, I'm very practical and pragmatic about almost everything. And so I'm in high school trying to figure out what I want to do, and I made a list, right? I made a list of, it was 2 columns. One was things that I was good at and could see myself doing. And another one was like reach for the stars, right? Like, I'm gonna be an astronaut, something like that, which was not ever gonna happen. But that was like the list, right? And I split it into those 2 things. And so what I was left with was lawyer. And I was like, cool, that's fine. But I had that time of analysis to see what I could foresee myself doing as a career and where I could go and what would allow me to live a self-sufficient life and help people and do something that I thought was worthy and also play to my assets. Because I like to talk and I like to argue.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd, right? I like books. I like going to the library. Like, that was fun for me. I'm that girl,
wow.
right? And so those things sort of play to what we do. And so if someone were interested, the first thing I would ask is this really what you want? Law school is a big commitment. It costs more now to go to law school than it did when I was in school. I had some cohorts who were coming out with $200,000 in debt, having to pay for law school. I don't recommend that unless it is really, really something you want to do and you have set it up so that you will be able to repay that debt later in some way, shape, or form, whether it's loan forgiveness or you take a job at some big corporate firm or, something.
Right.
So that you are truly, truly committed to this career. Because if you're just playing around, I don't recommend it at all. So you have to have a really strong heart.
Desire for it.
Yeah.
So my next question to you is, so with you being so busy and all of that, like, how is your personal life? Like, how, we have to go there, figure out, like, are you involved? And if you are, like, how do you balance because even though you have your personal life, and just like you said that no matter what you guys do, you're always gonna be held to a certain standard. So basically, y'all really don't have a private life, like talking about it.
You do have a private life. Okay. So for me, it was always, I know y'all know, my nephew lives with me, and I've had him since he was little. He is my life, right? And I make a concerted effort to be there for him, and I do that on purpose. And I probably devote myself too much.
What's up, family? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Wait Again Minute Podcast. If you haven't done so already, please hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel. Hit that notification button as well, so when we drop a new episode, you'll be first to know. Stay tuned to all things Wait Again Minute.
Especially that child, but because when I was growing up, so there's three of us. It's me. I'm the oldest of three, and my mom was a single parent, and she worked because she had to work, right? And it was her.
Right.
And so she did not attend a lot of things that we had because she was busy. And I did not want that for him. I wanted to be able to be available, taking him to different activities and stuff. And not to say that I missed out on anything, because I didn't. But to have the experience, I always looked back and, you had those parents who were able to take their kids to do this, and they were able to take their kids to do that. Yeah. They showed up for all the stuff. I'd be looking at that doorway for my mama to come through, and she didn't come pick me up until 20 minutes after we were done.
Wow.
I was like, hey, mama, because she was busy. She was busy. And so I want for him to have that person show up, and that's me. So I will say a large swath of my time is devoted to something with that child, which I don't regret at all. So that's part of it. And then the other part, I don't get very personal, but yes, there is a personal life there. I'm not going to talk about him, but yes. Yes.
Okay, cool. I get it. Hey, I get it. Okay, my last question to you is,
I thought you said two, and I thought
it's like okay. You keep going. It's okay. You keep going. We're best friends.
Look, I got 2 more questions for real. My next and last question is, what are you going to do different when because I'm sure you're preparing yourself to run in 25 or 26?
20. Yeah, next year, 25.
Okay. So what are you going to do different? Like, if like some of the plans that you have, maybe that you didn't implement, you didn't get implement your first term, are you going to do it your second term, or are you going to try something new? Like, what is something?
So yes. So the one thing that we're still waiting on is pretrial. I'm fairly certain our environmental justice project is going to be launched next year. So that's 2 of the 3 things that I really wanted to have accomplished, being checked off. Maybe we could get pretrial next year. So maybe all 3 get done. I'll be very happy with that. If not, pretrial carries over. There are some other things I want to do involving our kids. that I like to make long term. I've been honestly for the past 2 years working with Suffolk Public Schools, but some things just take a really long time to launch for all kinds of reasons. Not anybody's fault, just the way things come together. But I have ideas that I think would be successful. I also watch to see what has been successful in other places, right? Sometimes copying what other people have done that's been successful and modifying it to what you need in your community works. And so there are some things I don't want to say what they are now, but I have put a lot of effort and research into them, and they do revolve around our kids. So from that particular standpoint, I have thought about what I like to do when I am running for office next year. But quite frankly, like, I want to do them no matter what, whether I'm running for office or not. Like, these are the things that I think would help. And so I want to do them. So if I can do them next year, I'm going to do them next year.
Right.
And so, yeah. But as far as running for office, I try not to think about that. It is.
That's stressful.
It is very stressful. I know it doesn't seem like it, but I'm actually an introvert. Like, that nerd part comes out, like, give me a book and leave me alone, and I am fine, right? And so it sometimes you fight your nature when you are in politics and you're an introvert. It's very difficult.
You have to be out. You have to mingle. You have to network.
Right, which I don't mind. Like, when I'm out, it's fine. Sometimes you have to psych yourself up to get out. Like,
to get out.
And so so that's part of that's like a stressor. And you know, I read an article about, and it says, I think the title was why do we keep electing narcissists? And it's because narcissists like to get attention. They want to be out. They don't really care about helping other people. They're always self-serving, but they come across to other people as someone they should get behind. And so people who are introverted, who are probably your better leaders, get passed by because they're not exuberant and they're not, you know, the life of the party, but they are the ones who really would work the best for you. And so that's sort of where I come from. Sometimes I see other people and they do it and they make it look so easy. And sometimes I'm jealous. I'm like, how do you do it? And it's just their personality. It's their personality.
It's a personality thing.
Yeah. So sometimes when it comes to election, I try not to think about it because it comes with so much other stuff with it. Sometimes it's the cattiness, right?
Yeah. A lot of the cattiness.
A lot of the cattiness. A lot of the dishonesty. I don't care for. I'm not a drama person, right? Yeah. Court is enough drama. Other people's lives and the stuff that they do to each other is enough drama. I don't need to have any more.
Right.
And so, you know, like you've seen, I don't know if you read the Suffolk News Herald article regarding signs going up missing, other people's political signs in Suffolk. And it's I'm like, why? If you're going to win, it will be for you. You don't need to steal somebody else's sign.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so those kinds of things, right? And you know, the lies being told and, you know, the things, you know, said about me during the last election, I don't look forward to that again. So.
Oh, things are said about you?
Oh, yes, ma'am. You know, I'm not qualified. I've never, you know, I've not been a prosecutor for long, even though at that time I was like a prosecutor for over 15 years. What else?
Really?
Yeah. I can't even think.
So people have to come up with something to basically have another person kind of like doubt you or look at you like side eye anyway.
I think that's part of politics. And that's the nastiness in the politics. It's like people want to drag you, and sometimes it may be far from the truth.
Right. But they don't care.
They don't care anything about it. You know, it's about doing a smear campaign and people wait.
But see, that has me thinking like, okay, so what you're saying you're going to do is far from the truth too. You know?
Right. And so that's part of it. You know, and I don't like it. I don't look forward to it. And I did not run my campaign that way. I did not run my campaign in a way to, and I'm not saying that all came from the other side. I'm just saying it's what it's what happened. You know, I just want to lock up black people. I was like, wait, what sense does that make?
Yeah, I'm black.
Right. And you know, it was just a whole thing, and it just did not make sense. And I'm like, I've never been about, again, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. I don't care about your walk of life, because I don't dislike you or hate you or anything like that. My job is just to take a case file from a police officer or a state trooper or whoever and see if the person has committed the crime and if we should go forward with the case. Yeah. That's my job. You know.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you happen to be black, if you happen to be white, if you happen to be a man, if you happen to be a woman, that's just what it is.
Absolutely. That's
exactly
what it is. So now you are what? Okay, so if you're coming up on your last year, right? Mm-hmm. So would you, if you don't win, I mean, if you do decide to run and you don't win, what happens to you? Like, do you still try to stay under the new administration, or do you try to go to another city? Like, how is that done?
I have no idea. I haven't thought about that because if I want it, I will get it.
I know that's right.
I know that's right.
I know that's right. Hey, ain't no wrong with that.
So when you, like currently you're the Commonwealth Attorney, and when you say you have certain policies and programs you want to implement, do you have to go through someone else to get that approved, or can you just say, hey, this is what we're going to do?
Depends on what it is, right? And especially if there's a financial component.
Okay.
So if there's a financial component, you have to find money. That can be from the city, it can be from the state, it can be from the federal government, it can be from private organizations and foundations. And then once you get it, then sometimes it has to be appropriated, or you have to do certain things like that. So for example, our grant, when we applied for our ceasefire grant, that authorized us to have one additional prosecutor and an additional legal assistant. We applied for the grant, we received the grant, then the money has to be appropriated and then it has its own category in our budget for grant staff. And so things like that have to happen. So yes, there is coordination. It's not just that I say, I wave a magic wand and say, I want this and this is how I want to implement it. And, a lot of things do cost money. Some things that I'm looking at don't cost money. Obviously, those would be easier to implement for the most part. But, if you want to do something and you want to do it a little bit bigger, you do want to have some funds to be able to do that. So we're always looking for ways to bring in money to do these programs.
But as long as you come up with the way or find the money, you don't have to get approval from the mayor or the city manager or nothing like that.
Typically, well, we still have to get the money appropriated. So once it comes in, then they have to appropriate it to adopt the money, to say we take it. Yeah. Okay. So the position is very weird. I'm trying to find the right way to say it. It's very weird. I'm a constitutional officer. I'm independent, but then I'm reliant.
Okay.
And so some of the things we do in tandem and cooperation with the city, but by large. So for example, I am not like other department heads in the city, right? So other department heads, say the director of the police chief, he reports to the city manager. He has to go talk to him, and he has to do all these other. I don't have to do that. The other department heads, and they have a structure and organization that they have to follow when it comes to city council and the city manager, that I don't do. The clerk of court, the treasurer, commissioner of revenue, and the sheriff, we have our own thing, but we still work with them, right? It's because it's all for the betterment of the city and for the citizens. So it behooves us to work with them because it gets us what we need to help.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I have enjoyed our conversation, and I'm sure that when people hear and see this episode, that they're going to know something a little more different than they didn't know 3 years ago. And now,
so I was just hiding under a rock. No,
right. But I wanted to know. We've been talking over an hour now, so we want to know how has your time been since you've been here?
I didn't know it was over an hour. That I looked at my watch. I was like, oh, it's always nerve wracking. So I told you before we started that someone asked what questions are you going to be asked, and I was like, I don't know. I have no idea what they're going to ask me. But I just recall that the first time I was on, no, this is my third. This is my third time. But the first time I was on, y'all were so accommodating and kind and relaxing that I was able to say, I don't know what they're going to ask, but I was okay with that.
Right.
Because, and I tell you frankly, ask anything. I'm not afraid of hard questions.
Right.
I'm not afraid to go perhaps or maybe I shouldn't go. But if I am a public official and I am looking out for the best interest of the public has a right to know some of the reasons why we do certain things and how we do certain things. And so I look at it more as my obligation to tell people things. And I still have to be very careful, right? Because some things are still, being investigated, being litigated, those kinds of things, and I can't talk about them.
Right.
But other things we can talk about. Right.
Cases.
But I can talk about the fact that I never want to convict someone wrongly, right? And that's not something any of us want, and the people I work around it. And I think it's important for people to hear that, because you do see the news and you do see what's happening. You see someone who's been released from 20 years of incarceration after they were wrongly convicted, and we just never want that to be us.
Yeah.
And I just want to assure people of that. So when you ask the tough questions, I hope that I am prepared to answer them.
Yeah.
So I enjoy this experience.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that you enjoy this experience and that this is your third time coming on. Prayerfully, it won't be your last.
No, ma'am.
Prayerfully, it will not be your. We have to look for you and put a bolo out or whatever they call.
Well, see, I'll come back next year just because to say if I decide to run that talk about whatever campaign, whatever we have going on, and go from there. But again, I think it's important that we communicate with our citizens and that they know who they've got and what they've got. And I think it's important too because Suffolk is hard. So it's a hard place to get into when you're not from Suffolk. And so, the first thing people ask you, who's your people?
Oh, yeah.
I don't have no people in Suffolk. And so that, that's the first thing that they ask. And when you can't tell them a name.
Yeah, that's true.
They're like, who is she?
Yeah.
That little girl. How you say that name again? All of those things. And so just, again, to reassure people that I'm here, that I'm listening, that I'm working hard, that I'm continuing to work hard, that I will continue to work hard, that I represent everybody, and that, we're going to continue to do our job.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Ms. Go-Getter, any final words from you?
Yeah.
Shocking.
What's the title? A Book of Your Life. What's the title?
I'm not done yet, so there can't be a title.
You still can be in the process right now. It's not a finished book, but it's a book of your life as of right now. What's the title?
Just wait. Just wait. Title. Just wait.
Just wait.
Just wait.
Okay. And, I like that because
just wait.
Just wait.
It's broad.
Yeah. It's broad.
It's like,
I like
just
that,
wait.
Yeah, just wait.
Yeah.
And also for me, I don't know what God has planned for me, right? Yeah. So I can make all these plans. I can say I'm going to run. I can say I'm not going to run. I have no idea what God has for me tomorrow, right? Tomorrow's not promised. And so you do what you can today. So it's hard for me to say what my title would be, except just wait. I mean, I don't even know. So, for me, I'm waiting. So, yeah.
Just wait.
So,
well, just wait.
With that being said, guys, just wait.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night.